Okay, good morning. This is Richard Hsu, host of Hsu Untied. This morning, I'm really thrilled and pleased to have with me as my guest, Michael Gerstenzang, who's the managing partner of Cleary Gottlieb. Michael, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Richard. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Now, Michael, some time ago, I actually interviewed the CEO of your company, ClearyX, and she talked about the vision and you being the visionary leader. So I wanted to kind of talk to you maybe about how how you came up with the idea, what inspired you to want to create this company. I mean, law firms are not generally the bastion of innovation, at least not historically, but is there something specifically that kind of triggered your inspiration to do this?
Well, Richard, there actually was a moment where I started thinking about the need for something like ClearyX, and that was in the spring of 2018. I was about 1 year into my tenure as managing partner of the firm,
Mm.
and we had a partner meeting. And we invited to speak at our partner meeting a professor and lawyer named Richard Susskind,
Of
who's
course, know who you are.
quite
Yes.
well known in this field. And so Richard came and talked to our partners, and he said a few things in that talk that really resonated with me. First, he talked about the power of technology and the way that technology improves over time, and it's not a linear progression. It happens in fits and starts, but in general, technology improves faster than people think that it's going to.
Hmm.
But he also said some things about the way that lawyers think about technology. And one of them was that lawyers, and particularly, in particular, more senior lawyers, tend to be a little bit dismissive of the power of technology, that they kind of hold technology to a standard of perfection that, frankly, we don't hold each other to as people. And they overstate the value that they think they're bringing to a particular task. Things like judgment and experience, which are important, but they tend to overstate the value of those relative to the power of technology, in particular as technology improves. And that really resonated with me. I could
Hmm.
see those themes. And so I walked away from that presentation thinking, we really need to get ahead of the technological developments and not allow our own assessments of what we bring to a client relationship to get in the way of how we think about technology. It was kind of Carla Swansberg to refer to me as a visionary here, but if I had to really capture that, I would say, well, it was a vision based on fear, based on the fear of what happens to Cleary
Hmm.
Gottlieb and other firms
Hmm.
as a result of technology, not anything more than that. So I
Hmm.
walked away from that, spent a lot of time thinking about it, went to our executive committee and said, I think we need to think about creating a business that is focused on the use of technology in the practice of law. And what I described to our executive committee, and then that became a kind of vision statement as we went about trying to recruit a leader for ClearyX. And we were very fortunate to find Carla, who's a terrific business leader. But the kind of statement that I shared with our executive committee was, let's imagine the business that puts Cleary Gottlieb out of business.
Hmm.
And then let's go and try to create that business. But let's
Hmm.
have a very broad view as to what the business that puts us out of business might look like. And frankly, that's not other law firms. Now, don't get me wrong, we compete against other law firms all the time.
Right.
But I was trying to get us to imagine a true fundamental shift in the way that lawyers practice law, not just at Cleary Gottlieb, but across the industry, saying, let's imagine what that looks like and let's go try to build that. And that was really the vision statement
Hmm.
that led to the establishment of
Hmm.
ClearyX.
Now, did you kind of know from the very beginning that it had to be done as a separate company, or was that something that kind of arose as you kind of pursued this more? Did you think about just trying to do it internally within the law firm first?
Yeah. The idea of having it be separate, and it is wholly owned by Cleary Gottlieb, but operates with a fair amount of autonomy, that was pretty early on one of our
Mm,
core
mm,
principles.
mm,
And the reason for that was that we wanted to make sure that this business that might put us out of business had the latitude to grow and develop without being restricted by the Cleary Gottlieb culture, both the good and the bad
mhm,
of Cleary
mhm,
Gottlieb
mhm,
culture. We really
mhm,
wanted it to be something that could chart its own destiny in many ways in terms of what the products should look like, who the client base should be, how did the senior employees of ClearyX operate in terms of their own autonomy and compensation and all of those things. And we were pretty convinced that if we tried to do it within Cleary Gottlieb, it would unduly restrict
mm,
what
mm,
ClearyX
mm,
could become.
mm,
So that was a pretty
mm,
early recognition as we were thinking about the design of
mhm,
ClearyX. Now, I want to be clear that there is a very strong connection between Cleary Gottlieb and ClearyX, and it's more than just ownership. I mean, I think ClearyX benefits from having the substantive expertise that we have at Cleary Gottlieb, having the client relationships that we have at Cleary Gottlieb, having the brand of excellence and of internationalism that we have at Cleary Gottlieb. But the day-to-day operating function of ClearyX is pretty autonomous, and I
mm,
think that's a good
mm,
thing
mm.
in terms of the long-term ambitions and capabilities of ClearyX.
Now, would you say when you were a practicing lawyer before you took on the chair, the chair role, that you were a lawyer that embraced technology a lot? Or tell me about your relationship with technology as a practicing lawyer.
I wouldn't say that I was particularly technology oriented as a
Mm,
practicing lawyer.
mm,
Now, I grew up as a lawyer in a time of some significant technological advances. When I was a summer associate at Cleary Gottlieb, I spent a significant part of my summer blacklining, comparing two documents by hand with a ruler and a felt tip pen, and
wow.
and then benefited from compare right, but more seriously benefited from email, which hadn't been a thing when I first joined the firm. Benefited obviously from the mobility of technology, uh, cell phones, iPhones, and the like. But when I think about those technologies, for the most part, those were technologies that allowed lawyers to continue doing all the things that we had been doing, but faster and
Mm,
more efficiently and with greater mobility. They weren't fundamental changes in
mm,
how we practice. They were
mm,
really facilitating the practice that we had already been engaging in. And I think, as you know, I sat there in the spring of 2018, and this is well before I at least had ever heard the term generative AI. But even
yeah,
then, and
right.
certainly today, we are looking at technologies that do have the prospect of fundamentally changing how we practice law and frankly, how we all relate to each other.
Yeah, yeah. Well, tell me how involved you are with the company now on sort of a day-to-day basis. Are you very involved in the actual product offering or the marketing, or tell me what aspects? I mean, obviously you're running a law firm, so it's not like you don't have other things to do, but tell me about your, involvement on kind of a day-to-day level now.
Yeah, yeah. So we have, as I said, we've got a great CEO of ClearyX. We intentionally structure the relationship so they operate with significant autonomy, but it is really an integral part of how we're approaching client service and an integral part of our long-term strategy as a firm. So I stay closely involved with ClearyX as a result of that. We govern ClearyX through a four-person operating committee, effectively a board for ClearyX, and I'm the chair of that. And we have a standing quarterly meeting with the senior management of ClearyX
Mm,
to talk about strategy and business
mm,
plan and
mm.
the like. But I also just spend a lot of time with the ClearyX folks in between those quarterly meetings
Yeah,
because it
yeah.
is so important to our business over the long term.
How about
Another thing. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, but how about like some of the actual product offerings? Are you involved in that and coming up with ideas and that sort of thing?
Yes, that's been quite a collaborative process. And if I
Mm,
think about the other founding principles, let's say, of ClearyX, and one of them was the autonomy from the firm, benefiting from culture and our practice, but without being constrained by it. Another important founding principle was focus on clients, and really starting with the premise of what are the client pain points that we should be trying to address, and talking to clients about that. I think sometimes in the innovation space broadly, you can find people who are very clever at developing new tools, but don't necessarily start with the client conversation. So they develop something that is impressive, but clients have a hard time using, or it doesn't
Mhm.
quite hit the mark as to what
Mhm.
clients need. So we very intentionally started with conversations with clients, and we continue that today to help us figure out the product roadmap and refine the strategy for ClearyX. And I've been very involved in those client conversations. Pretty early on in the establishment of ClearyX, we formed a client advisory board
Mhm.
for
Mhm. Mhm.
ClearyX. It
Mhm.
doesn't have any governance role, but it's proven to be a very useful sounding board. And these are clients that some of them are working directly with ClearyX, others may not necessarily, but they have a good vision as to what they would need in their business
Mhm.
in terms of technology and legal support. So staying really close to the clients, I think, is critically important for something like ClearyX to succeed.
Now, you touched upon a little earlier about artificial intelligence. As you said, when you started the company, it was not really in the vernacular. Now, of course, it's everywhere. Tell me a little about how artificial intelligence has it been a part of ClearyX since the early days, or is that something you're really embracing now? Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, yeah. So, right. I mean, generative AI was not something that was at least in the common domain when we launched ClearyX. We were very focused on the technologies that were cutting edge at the time, and very disciplined about making sure that our product offering to clients was technology first, and not trying to be a kind of alternative legal service provider that was looking to reduce human labor costs for
Mm,
clients,
mm,
but instead coming up with a different solution, a technology-driven solution. As generative AI started to kind of filter into the more popular domain, we used ClearyX in the early days as a kind of sandbox to experiment with generative AI. And that proved to be very effective because, there were at the time and continue to be concerns about confidentiality of client data, about errors in what generative AI can produce, so-called hallucinations and so on. ClearyX gave us a controlled environment in which we could experiment with generative AI,
mm,
use it to plug into other technologies that we were already using at ClearyX, and really see how things went. And I think it's easier when you've got, first of all, small organization. Second of all, a structure that already is using technology in their day-to-day
mm,
business,
mm,
to use that as a sandbox, and that worked very well. Now, of course, generative AI has advanced a lot, even in the last 6 months. Some of the early concerns, if not completely solved, they are being reduced and mitigated. And so now we're using generative AI more broadly across Cleary Gottlieb. But I would still say it's very much in the experimentation phase. We're trying different tools. We're engaging directly with clients on proof of concept experiments with the client, and that's an ongoing process. But it is certainly broader today across our firm than it was in the earliest days.
What is kind of your vision for ClearyX, say 5 or 10 years? Do you see it being maybe a company you spin out later, or will it always be within the law firm, or do you have any specific visions for the company?
Well, look, I think it's too early to tell. I think it's grown a lot. I think it should continue on an aggressive growth trajectory. One of my partners in talking about ClearyX says, and I think it's a half joking comment, that someday ClearyX will be, quote, the firm, and Cleary Gottlieb will be the content provider to ClearyX. I don't know if we'll get quite there, but I think it is important to be ambitious and to meet the opportunity, and most importantly, to meet the client need.
Yeah.
And we see a lot of future growth for ClearyX in doing that. What the ownership structure looks like, that's a kind of open question. We have seen, of course, private equity firms and others invest in legal technology
Yeah.
companies. That can be a useful way to accelerate growth because it provides capital for growth. But we're not at that point now, and I think we've got a ways to go in growing the business just as a Cleary Gottlieb wholly owned business.
Well, one side benefit, it seems to me, and I'd love to hear your comments on this, is that having this company that really forces you to keep abreast of the technology. And it's one thing if you're a law firm and you're kind of like, oh, I really should be doing this, but you really kind of have to because you've made it a business. So at least I would think that just that alone, that really forces you to really stay up to breast with things.
Absolutely. It both forces you to do that, it focuses your attention, and frankly, it gives you an opportunity to do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
ClearyX is very much in the flow of innovation in this space. And so we talk to a lot of relatively young companies in the legal tech space and
Yeah.
understand what they're doing.
Right.
And
Right.
and when we can, we try to help them figure out what the best path is from the point of view of the client. And going back to something I said a few moments ago, it can be a challenge sometimes for innovators to really understand client needs. And ClearyX and Cleary Gottlieb are often at the intersection between the technology and the client need. And it's good for everybody if we can help guide what the development should look like to best serve clients.
Yeah. When you told the clients about ClearyX, are they pretty surprised that a law firm is trying to do this company? Like, what is their reaction? Are they
Yeah.
surprised?
They're often surprised.
Yeah.
They're kind of intrigued
Uh-huh,
by it.
uh-huh, uh-huh.
They don't see a lot of this out in the market,
Yeah.
particularly for firms like Cleary Gottlieb. We've gotten a lot of engagement from clients, and one of the interesting things has been that, of course, every legal department is trying to come to grips with what generative AI means for them, and so even for clients that aren't sure or don't feel they have the right project for ClearyX, at the moment, they really want to talk to our team
Mm.
to help them figure out what internally within the legal department they should be doing as they do their own experimentation
Yeah,
on
yeah,
different
yeah,
legal
yeah, yeah.
technology. And it's almost like a consulting kind of role for technology. Now, we're not trying to become a legal technology consultant. That's not a business we're trying to build, but we do see clients who realize we have the expertise and realize that we have the credibility to be helpful to them as they chart their own, roadmap for this.
Yeah, yeah. And then, of course, you in turn learn more about the technologies, obviously, because your clients are technology companies or can be a technology company. So you in turn can learn about what they're doing, obviously developing as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
So
absolutely.
do you see Cleary X as being a potential career path? Because there could be lawyers, for example, that maybe they want to be entrepreneurs, maybe, and then they could use their legal background and be go to Cleary X. Is that something that has happened or you see as a possibility?
I do see it as a possibility, and in fact, we encourage that lawyers may, and whether they started out at Cleary Gottlieb or somewhere else, want a different career path
Yeah.
and are interested in technology. I think that's quite attractive. Big law sometimes has a talent challenge. It's hard to attract people, and especially younger people. There's a generational aspect of this, and people with an entrepreneurial spirit can say, "Well, big law, is that really for me?" ClearyX, and I think we can do this with other businesses over time within Cleary Gottlieb. We can offer that to people, younger people who have an entrepreneurial spirit, want to be part of this industry, but in a different kind of framework. And I think it's
Yeah.
very attractive if you can create a career path for somebody. And I think we can do that in ClearyX. I hope we can do that within Cleary Gottlieb too. But for some people, the idea of having a long-term career at a big law firm isn't that attractive. the idea of working at essentially a startup in the legal technology space that has the benefit of being within the umbrella of Cleary Gottlieb, that's very attractive.
Yeah, totally. I can. Do you get to feel like you get to be an entrepreneur as well? I mean, most lawyers never really get to, they it's hard for a lawyer to be an entrepreneur, but do you get to feel like you play an entrepreneur now?
I do. I do feel that way, and it's very exciting. One of my happiest moments in the evolution of ClearyX, and this was about a year and a half into it. One of our senior folks at ClearyX happens to be a very gifted woodworker, and we had a meeting in New York, and he brought me a little woodwork thing that says "Founder ClearyX," and it's in the ClearyX colors, and in the old days, lawyers like me would put deal toys
Yeah,
around their
yeah, yeah,
office. That's
yeah,
not such a big thing anymore, but I proudly display my founder
yeah,
ClearyX
yeah, yeah.
deal toy. Yeah.
Well, it must be nice that you get to really exercise a different part of your brain with this job. I mean, obviously, running a law firm is exciting, and I'm sure it's challenging, and you wake up in the morning and invigorated to do that. But this, running a company exercises probably a different part of your brain, and it's nice to have that, in addition to running a law firm.
Absolutely. And there is something about a startup and fostering that startup ambition that, I think we have at Cleary Gottlieb very entrepreneurial people and very ambitious people, but within a smaller organization, you just can find a different sense of urgency, of growing, of failing fast. That's one of the things we talk about at ClearyX. Like, let's try different technologies, and if they don't work, let's fail fast and move on to the next one. We can come back to the prior one in 6 months and give it another try once it's further developed. Failing fast is kind of a hard thing to embrace in a big law firm. The stakes are very high. There's a commitment to excellence and perfection within what we do. It doesn't quite fit with the vibe of big law to say, let's fail fast. It fits very well within ClearyX and within a startup culture.
Yeah. Sounds like you're having a lot of fun with it
I
too,
am.
actually.
I am.
I can tell from your voice and the excitement. It sounds like you're having fun.
Yes, I am.
Well, Michael, this has been a fascinating conversation. I really appreciate your taking the time to share your story and the vision and how you founded it. It was a real pleasure, and thanks for taking the time.
My pleasure, Richard. Thanks. Thank you.
This is Richard Hsu and Michael Gerstenzang. Thanks.